Over 60% of small businesses fail due to poor decision-making, and this salon owner didn't just make a poor decision. She torched her own career by publicly banning Trump supporters from her business. This is what happens when personal beliefs outweigh professionalism. Let's unravel this jaw-dropping story of ego-driven destruction. The central figure in this tale is a salon owner, a woman with over 22 years of experience in the beauty industry. By all accounts, she had built a steady business, gained loyal clients, and was part of her community. But all that stability and trust would come crashing down because of one controversial decision. She decided to publicly declare that anyone who supported former President Donald Trump was no longer welcome in her salon. In one bold move, she alienated a significant portion of her clientele and then acted as if everything would be fine. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. But how did she do this? Did she have a quiet conversation with clients explaining her views? No, she took her frustrations to TikTok, where she unleashed an angry and divisive tirade for all the world to see. She labeled Trump voters as racists, homophobes, misogynists, and worse. And here's where it gets even more intense. She claimed that if someone voted for Trump, they were inherently complicit in all these behaviors. According to her, if you're okay with those things, you are those things. And to make matters worse, she made this declaration from a state where Trump had overwhelming support. How did she think this would end? Now, you might be thinking maybe this happened in a liberal city where people wouldn't bat an eye at such sentiments, but nope, here's the kicker. This salon owner lived in Idaho, a state that's about as red as it gets. We're talking deep, conservative territory where Trump had overwhelming support. For her to make such inflammatory statements in that kind of environment, it was nothing short of business suicide. It's like walking into a barbecue competition and declaring you're a vegan. She seemed to completely ignore the cultural and political reality of her surroundings. Did she think her clients would just shrug it off? Instead, what followed was a slow, painful unraveling of her career.
They're dropping like flies. I lost another one of my clients today, who clearly was a Trump supporter. And they sent me a message. They never cancel their appointment. They don't have the courage to cancel their appointment, and it's just fucking rude. But anyway, she messaged me after I had messaged her, like, hey, I had you down at 3, just making sure you're on your way. I'm making sure you're okay. And she wrote back, Dear Tiffany, spelled my name wrong. I am so sorry that this last election has upset you so much as to elicit the hateful public post you made on TikTok. Not once, but twice. I have really thought highly about you, and your posts have broken my heart. Since you have made it clear how you feel about anyone who doesn't share your opinion, I feel you have left no opinion but for me to move on. I wish you the best, and I am terribly sorry.
The fallout from her actions was swift and brutal. Clients who had been loyal for years, people who had trusted her, supported her, and helped her grow her business started leaving in droves. She described it as her clients dropping like flies, which should have been a wake-up call. But instead of taking a moment to reflect on why this was happening, she went right back to TikTok. She lamented her losses, but not before doubling down on her divisive rhetoric. And it didn't stop there. She mocked her former clients. One longtime customer even sent her a heartfelt message explaining their decision to leave. Rather than taking it as constructive feedback or acknowledging the client's feelings, she brushed it off entirely. The client's message was polite and heartfelt, the kind of note you'd expect from someone who truly valued the relationship they had with their stylist. They expressed sadness over how the salon owner's recent behavior had made them feel unwelcome, sharing their disappointment with grace and wishing her the best moving forward. They explained, calmly and respectfully, that they could no longer support her business. It was the type of message that could have sparked a moment of reflection or even remorse. Instead, the salon owner ridiculed them. She fixated on the fact that they misspelled her name and dismissed their feelings entirely, almost as if their thoughtful words meant nothing to her. It was a response that screamed immaturity and arrogance, showing just how unwilling she was to take any accountability for the damage she'd caused.
So, just continuing to lose clients, and I would rather go work at Chipotle, and I was not lying when I said that I was headed to my Chipotle interview, because I did apply to Chipotle, because I'm not going to ask for a handout, and it's been a rough year. I'm a single mom, and my ex-husband does help me out a lot during this time because I refuse to ask for help. But I would rather go and do what I need to do and work at Chipotle after my 22-year career in this industry and refuse to let people feel comfortable in my space to support racism, homophobia, and misogyny, and a rapist, I would rather go work there than have people feel comfortable in my space with that and that mentality. So, again, I'm reaping what I sow. I am suffering the consequences of my own actions, but I stand by what I said. I absolutely stand by what I said. And so if you see me working at Chipotle as a business owner and a salon owner of 22 years, say hi. Be kind, because this life is fucking hard.
The most puzzling part? She seemed almost proud of her actions, as if her moral stance justified the financial devastation she was facing. She even claimed that she would rather work at Chipotle to allow people with differing political views to feel comfortable in her salon. Yes, after 2 decades in the beauty industry, she applied for a job at Chipotle. And while there's nothing wrong with working at Chipotle, the sheer irony of her situation was hard to ignore. She went from running her own successful business to applying for an entry-level position, all because she couldn't separate her personal beliefs from her professional life. It was a classic case of cutting off your nose to spite your face, and she seemed oblivious to how far she had fallen. Now let's pause for a moment to really think about this. Imagine being a business owner in a small, conservative state like Idaho. Your livelihood depends on your community. These are people you see at the grocery store, at school events, at local gatherings. And yet you choose to insult and alienate them publicly. What kind of reaction would you expect? Did she think her business could somehow survive without the very people who made it successful in the first place? And it gets even more bizarre. She accused a popular TikTok creator of gaslighting their audience simply for defending their decision to vote for Trump. According to her, this creator was demeaning and manipulative. Wasn't she doing the exact same thing? She was labeling and berating people for their beliefs, all while claiming to be a victim. The hypocrisy was glaring, and yet she seemed completely oblivious to it. One of the most striking parts of this story is how she refused to take any responsibility for what happened. She openly admitted that she was reaping what she sowed, but even then, she doubled down, insisting that she stood by her words. There wasn't a hint of acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, her actions had been out of line or that she could have approached things differently. Instead, she leaned into the idea of being a martyr, portraying herself as someone brave enough to suffer for her beliefs. It felt less like conviction and more like stubbornness taken to an extreme. Her refusal to back down wasn't about standing up for her beliefs. It was about clinging to an ideology at all costs, even when those costs included her livelihood and reputation. And speaking of costs, let's talk about the financial toll. This wasn't just about losing a few clients, this was about watching her entire business crumble. Loyal clients, the backbone of any small business, felt betrayed. They didn't just walk away. They likely shared their experiences with others. Word spreads quickly in small communities, and negative impressions are hard to undo. She seemed to believe that her boldness would earn her respect or validation, but what it earned her was isolation. And while she complained about the challenges of life and asked for kindness from strangers, she didn't seem to extend that same kindness to the people she had alienated. It's hard to feel sympathy for someone who brings about their own downfall so spectacularly. Her lack of critical thinking stood out the most. Living in a conservative area, she acted as if her business was in a liberal city like Los Angeles or New York. Did she really think denouncing Trump supporters would go unnoticed? Holding strong beliefs is one thing, but completely ignoring the reality of your surroundings is another. And then there's the media influence. She clearly absorbed narratives from outlets like CNN and MSNBC without question, adopting their views wholesale and regurgitating them as facts. It's evident she never stopped to do her own research or considered that not everyone who voted for Trump fit the caricature she had built in her mind. Her story is a clear reminder of how dangerous it can be to let ideology cloud your judgment. This wasn't just about losing clients. It was about losing credibility, trust, and respect. People don't want to support a business where they feel judged or unwelcome. They want to feel valued and respected, no matter what they believe. And yet, this salon owner seemed to believe that alienating half the country was a winning strategy. She underestimated the power of community and the importance of relationships in a small-town business. She overestimated the reach of her moral grandstanding, thinking it would elevate her when, in reality, it only brought her down. So what's the takeaway here? It's simple. Don't let personal politics dictate how you treat others, especially if you're a business owner. It's always better to focus on what brings people together instead of what drives them apart. In the end, showing respect and staying professional will get you much further than creating division ever will. Think this is a story worth sharing? Smash that like button and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit subscribe for more eye-opening stories about the real-world fallout of bad decisions.